this could be probably the most important finding ever in history. If there is proof, if the scientists can demonstrate that these bodies are real, then they could be considered the most important finding ever. The Minister of Culture of Peru has been confused because they've been presenting the body on the left and comparing to the body on the right. The body on the left, on the right, excuse me, is the one that was presented by the Ministry of Culture, compared to the one that is on the left. There are so many differences. You can see that one is assembled, the other is absolutely real. One has metal inside the bodies, and the other doesn't. These metals are toxic if they are in contact with the body. How can they do that? How could they do this 1,000 years ago? You can see all the difference. One has eggs, the other doesn't. You can see the joints of the bones. They are so different in one and the other. The one in the left is the one that we presented at the Mexican Congress. This one. Sorry, because, yeah, well, sorry. This is the one that is wrong. This is assembled. This was presented by the Minister of Culture as the real thing. And it's not, as you can see. You can see the details of the body that is not right. Flavio Estrada is the scientist who investigated this, and he said that this body was modern, was assembled, was a fake, and he considered that everything else was a fake. In October last year, the Minister of Culture confiscated 2 bodies that were going to Mexico and analyzed them for 2 months, and finally they say they were assembled. The man who made these creatures told the Minister of Culture right after they were confiscated that he had made them. Wait 1 second, please. 1 second. 1 second, please. 1 second, please. No. Okay. Let me explain this. Okay. One of them is an artesania, and the other, no, can we go back, please? Jeez. No. Okay, right there, right there, right there, right there. Please, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead. Okay, there were analyses that were done live, but we have to see the letter from the university. Okay, 12 scientists from the University of Ica signed the letter. Stop there. That letter that we were presenting, 11 scientists signed that letter, saying that the bodies are true. If we can hear what the conclusions say, please, can we go back to the university letter after the bodies, please? Sorry, more, back. There, okay, a little bit more. Okay, right there. Sorry, this is important because this is the conclusion of the University of Ica after 4 years investigating these bodies. Please, go ahead.
Finally, as a result of our investigations, the research team has come to the conclusion that the desiccated bodies studied are completely authentic from a biological point of view and show no signs of having been manipulated or assembled in any way. Our scientific approach has been rigorous, and the results contribute to the authenticity of these bodies.
This is the University of Ica after 4 years investigating the bodies. Can they be wrong? Can they get confused? We took these bodies live in YouTube, in a live stream, and we put them under the X-rays, the fluoroscopy, the tomographies, and different experts analyzed the bodies, and they concluded that they were real. You can check that recording in YouTube. Was done the 18th of September last year. You can check it out. You can see all the details and the conclusions. We took a notary that in Mexico, the notary is very important to report officially what the doctors were saying, and they said that the bodies were absolutely real. Dr. Salce put his hand there to prove that this was happening live. As I said, the DNA, you can check the DNA right here. Anybody who's watching at home can see where the DNA is and check it out. If you're a scientist and you know how to read ancient DNA, please do it. In January of 2017, Thierry Jamin sent a letter. Thierry Jamin is very important in this investigation. He sent a letter to the Ministry of Culture saying that he had this finding and he wanted them to participate. 2017, here. And then he sent a letter to the president of Peru. And we didn't receive any answer. Then in July 2017, I went to the Ministry of Peru to ask them to participate in the investigation. They didn't want to do anything. You know? I tried and tried. We gave a press conference the 11th of July, the day before I went there. I asked them to come to the press conference because we want to present all the evidence. They didn't want to do it. Can you see the resistance? Then in 2023, I went back with my lawyer, Dr. Rafael Berrocal. We went together and he witnessed how we were treated. Even though we announced that we were going, we announced that we wanted to talk to the Minister of Culture, and she didn't want to. Okay, these are the bodies that we have found. Victoria, we made all the DNA samples from Victoria. It's a headless, and that's the reason we decided to take the samples from this body. That's Victoria. We call it that way. The headless figure or creature, Tridactyl creature. Then we have Albert or Alberto. Albert is right now at the University of Ica. It's different. Every single being has a different personality, has a different face, has a different body, exactly like humans. This is Albert. We made all the analysis, tomographies, everything we could. We did the DNA. Can you say this is a fake? Can you see this is the head of a llama? And then we have Josephine. Josephine, it's very important. It's a female, and was the first time that we found two things. One that has eggs inside, and the second is that has a metal in the breast. This is Josephine. It was a big surprise when we took her to the... We thought that a fetus was inside. We never thought that eggs were inside. All of this can be analyzed. We need to take these bodies to the US, to a big university, big scientists, and they can investigate them. Okay, around the eggs you can see irrigation. This is Luisa. Another body that we have, you can see the eggs also, Luisa, and you can see how they are irrigated. That's impossible to fake. And we can see, we have seen embryos inside the eggs. Maria is a human-like body with a huge head, 3 fingers in every hand, and the foot. The fingers are long. We're going to have real experts in hands and neck and head in this presentation. And they will tell you about this. This is so important. This changes history. This is Santiago, one of the bodies that we're going to present live from Lima today. You can see that it's very close like Maria. It's a 3-finger body with a large head, different eyes. We didn't touch this body. We didn't do anything to this body. It was delivered to us. Michael and Serena were there. They can tell you about this. And you will see later on live X-rays, live tomographies. And you will hear the experts talking about this. This changes everything. Can you imagine if they were living with the old humans 1,000 or 2,000 years ago? Did we receive knowledge from them? Or is this a new species? But there is nothing before and nothing after. It's like they appear and disappear suddenly. That's very difficult in nature. In nature, you have developments. You will have something before, probably not after they were extinguished, but before, yes, you have to see slowly this process. Santiago is like a little kid. You will see the fingerprints. The fingerprints are different from humans. That is impossible to fake. You can see the X-rays here. It's like the head of a little boy, where there is separation between the different plates of the head. By the way, all this material is going to be available to anyone who wants to see it. We don't have anything to hide. If I were faking this, I wouldn't put it available to everyone. I would try to hide it here and there. No, it's open to everyone. Would you consider I would take the bodies to the Mexican Congress, putting in danger 50 years of career to present fake bodies? Think about that. Because what they've done to me is unacceptable. And I mean the Ministry of Culture. And I mean the media around the world. I'm surprised the media did not check the source of the Ministry of Culture. They would have realized that it was not the same body.
A little bit so they can have a look at the screen.
I'm not hiding.
Just for the camera.
Okay, this is Sebastian. This is another body that we're going to present today. It has different plates, one in the neck. It has some letters there. We have not been able to identify those letters. I think it's very important. This is very new. This was delivered to us, what, 2 months ago. Yes, we have not done DNA. Yes, we have not done the proper analysis, the carbon-14th. We will. But we wanted to present this to the media and to the world. You can see the eyelashes in the eyes. They are so similar to us. Could they be hybrids? Could they have been created? by somebody else? Could humans do that 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago? I don't think so. You can see the eyelashes there very clearly, all the details. That's the plate in the back. And you can see letters there. The plate was completely covered with diatomea. Diatomea is where they were found, in a mine of diatomea. Diatomea is a phytoplankton plant or from the sea. It's fossilized and is used to desiccate. These bodies are desiccated, completely desiccated. They don't have any liquid or oil in their bodies. This is the plate. What is doing there? Why? So many questions. It's fascinating. Sorry, it's fascinating. Instead of opposing this, scientists should be, excited about this. This is something we have been looking for humanity for so many years. And it's in the hands of civil society. It's not in the hands of government to hide. It's open. Let's be happy about this. Okay, these are the bodies that have been found and presented until now. But there is so much more. Believe me, this is not the last press conference. This is not the last time that we are going to be presenting bodies. It's going to be more and more and more. Let's see how the world reacts to this. As I said, I've been humiliated, I've been discredited, I've been defamed, and my lawyer is going to speak about that. Okay. I hope you are enjoying this because this is pure history. You are part of history. There should be here thousands of media. Thousands. This is so important. I have put everything in risk because this cannot be hid. We found this in 2017. I made different programs. And every time we found so many obstacles. That's why I had to take them to the Congress of Mexico, because David Grosh was talking about bodies remaining from the craft, from the crashes, and the government didn't want to present them. I thought it was the time to present them to the public. Sorry, I don't want to extend. There are more things to be said. We're going to have a live stream from the University of Ica, and we will have a live stream from a laboratory in Lima, and you will learn so much more about this. I want to introduce Dr. Rafael Berrocal. He's a top lawyer in Peru. He's going to talk about the legal gaps under the Constitution, the framework of the Constitution. He's a constitutionalist in Peru. He's a top man regarding laws. And he's going to talk now about these legal gaps on the anomalous bodies in the Constitution, not just of Peru, but around the world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So a large part of this will be in Spanish, so if you do have your headphones now, it would be a great time to pop them.
Was it okay?
If you don't, does anybody need a QR code so that you can log in to hear the
water?
translator?
The one in the corner? No, the other. That is open. No, it's open. The other one. Oh, thank you.
First of all, good morning.
Was my English?
To all the men and women in the world, since we are online in communication with the most important media in this place, I see Jaime with so much passion, with so much emotion and firmness, talk about the bodies, the tridactyl creatures found in Peru, in my country, in which I feel proud, phenomenally grateful to the sky, to the earth, to the sea, that there really is something to discover on our planet Earth. I am going to touch a fundamental issue of legal criterion. Legal gaps from the constitutional framework, but I'm going to start, it's not tomorrow, remember a little our constitutional rights, which framing our laws around the world. Basically, I am going to start from the universal imperative right of men in the world. It is implacable and indisputable, emphasized in our constitutions of the countries of the world, being the right to life, the right to liberty, the right not to be subjected neither to slavery or to torture. It is a very important right to freedom and other aspects and to public opinion. Therefore, the expression to education, to work, among others, these rights correspond to all people without any discrimination in the universe. However, the regulation on the right to freedom of knowledge is not yet contemplated in various subjects, as well as supporting scientific research on unidentified anomalous bodies such as tridactyl creatures for their analysis and research in order to reach the truth about its existence. This, place it in quotes, this limits and mutilates a fundamental right, that of freedom to education and access to knowledge. Therefore, we invoke the governments of the world to implement constitutional reforms which contemplate in the laws the development of science and the officialization of the disclosure of information of interest to society unknown to this date. While humanity has the right to know about the existence of non-human beings before, during, and after our existence. Or do we not have the right? We have the fundamental right to know what said and what science is and what will be in the world. It is important to specify that the bodies, tridactyl creatures found in Peru, specifically in the district of Palpa and the province of Nasca, in the region of Ica, represent a human responsibility to know their existence on this planet through scientific studies. In this sense, the journalist and researcher Jaime Maussan, together with the first-level professionals, each of them promote these investigations on unidentified abnormal bodies to determine whether they belong to this world or to beings from other spaces. These investigators have not had the support of the Peruvian state, but they have been the subject of infamies, insults, and discredits that attack against human dignity, calling them as liars, among other adjectives, especially against investigators and against the investigations of the graduates, scientists, mainly Jaime Maussans. These statements and these actions have occurred as a follow-up statements issued by officials of the Ministry of Culture and the Public Ministry. mainly the Ministry of Culture, since 2018. While it is true this started in 2017, but it was in 2018 was triggered with the declaration of the Deputy Minister of Culture at that time. Included to date, chronologically, with the participation and intervention of officials headed by the current Minister of Culture, Leslie Urteaga. These statements by state representatives allowed it to spread worldwide, causing great moral, psychological, and economic damage to the dignity of graduate Jaime Maussan. Such statements were made without carrying out serious and real investigations on the bodies that are under custody of the University of Ica for scientific study. It is important to highlight that the Ministry of Culture did not carry out an analysis of these bodies, but of craft objects declared by their authors, and not precisely of the body's object of scientific research. For all of the above mentioned, a judicial process was formalized, initiating a process with preliminary extrajudicial acts to participate in a conciliation with the state responsible, who incurred these serious facts and claims, of course, in order to address a solution on the claim of compensation claim in favor of the appellant Jaime Maussan for the sum of $300 million. Of course, honor anywhere in the world is priceless. It has no roof. It has no economic scale. For this attention and for the attention of the judicial games and the legal jurisdictions to do justice, this compensation will be allocated to the construction of the scientific and modern museum of Palpa Nasca in the region of Ica for the benefit of all Peruvians and the entire humankind. This has been provided by the appellant of this lawsuit, Jaime Maussan Flota. To the men and women of the world, I must add and ask you from this podium, you should never allow the fundamental right to be violated in any part of the world. That is why there are our laws, which we must refer to, and of course it is necessary to perfect them to address complex and relevant cases like this case, unidentified abnormal bodies, which must be treated with the direction of scientific research in order to then declare them as World Heritage for the benefit of society as a whole, as it should be, because we all have the imperative right not to limit ourselves to finding our knowledge for our descendants and for the whole world. Thank you very much for your fine attention. Thank you. Indeed, a lawsuit for $300 million has been presented to the government of Peru. I believe this is the first time in the world, in history, that civil society sues a government for distorting or hiding information. However, we call on the government of Peru to be able to reconcile. What we want is, first of all, to continue the investigation, not only of the bodies presented, but of all those that will be presented. There are many more bodies. The find is massive. You already heard it, massive. This will not be able to be hidden. In addition to investigating, we want to preserve them. Since the day they were extracted from the place where they were found in the diatom mines, these bodies have been degrading. Soon, if nothing is done, they will turn to dust. They will break, fall apart, and finally turn into dust. They are bodies that are 1,000 or 2,000 years old. Consider it. And thirdly, display them. Show them to everyone for the benefit of the inhabitants of Nasca and Palpa, who are the ones who should really be attributed this benefit. What we really want here is to be able to bring about a change in history. We have no other intention, and let me be very clear. I deeply love Peru. I am not against the government of Peru. I am in favor of the truth. Such an important truth. I hope you realize how serious this distortion of facts is. Strange beings are found, possibly a new species, possibly extraterrestrials, why not? And they are trying to hide them. From the first day that Gaia.com, and I want to deeply and publicly thank Gaia.com, which was the company that believed in this, and thanks to them and only them, the first part of this research, which was definitive, could be carried out. From the first day that Gaia.com exhibited these findings, the anthropologists and archaeologists of Peru rebelled against this. The next day, they were writing a letter that I had committed the fraud, that I had cut off its fingers, the thumb and the little finger, and had put them on the bigger fingers. That is impossible. Let me be very clear, and I said it in Spanish, sorry, because I must be very punctual in what I'm saying. And English is my second language, and I want to be very clear with this, which is so relevant.
Sorry, I spoke in Spanish, but I had to do it because this was very important for me to say. Okay, now we go to Mexico City, where is Dr. Salce. Who is Dr. Salce? Dr. Salce, he's a doctor, a physician that was formed by the Navy in Mexico. He became the forensic expert of the Navy of Mexico. He became a former director of 42 hospitals or 46 hospitals of the Navy in Mexico. It's not just anybody. We are talking about one of the big experts of Mexico. And he had the courage to participate in this investigation from the very beginning. He has been punished because of that. I don't want to speak deeply, he has to, but he has been punished, okay? Let's go then to Mexico City. Are you ready?
Are you ready back in Mexico City to start the transmission, please?
Sí, adelante.
Good morning, everybody. It is an honor to do this research since the beginning in 2017 and to have the privilege to knowing and studying these Tridactyl bodies. I will give my testimony for being
Louder.
Good morning. Through this summary of the structural characteristics of these tridactyl bodies that are perfectly preserved in diatom powder in a state of conservation by desiccation, I will clearly explain their structural characteristics. As the first tridactyl, we have the one called Josefina, which has a head, thorax, abdomen, and limbs ending tridactylly. The most relevant thing about this tridactyl is that its skull is elongated and joins the neck centrally or medially through a cubic foramen magnum, which makes it unique. In its chest, it has a metal implant with exclusive characteristics of an alloy of osmium, cadmium, and silver at 95% purity, which is extremely rare in nature. These metals are used for satellite communication. However, They are attached to the chest of this specimen without causing a reaction or rejection in the tissue or skin. Likewise, we can observe the presence of eggs in 3 different sizes, which speaks of a different state of gestation. In this simple X-ray, we can observe the complete harmony and functionality between the bone joints, that is, the harmonious and natural continuity between one and the other. For greater definition, we have this tomographic image where in the skull we can see that there is still brain material inside. Furthermore, in this image, the spine can be perfectly highlighted throughout the entire body. And in the background, we can see the presence of the 3 eggs we are talking about, and on the surface, the metal implant perfectly attached to the surface of the skin. In this other tomographic image, we can see the head, neck, and thorax. In turn, we can see that the oral cavity is a kind of bird's beak that has a perfectly outlined swallowing duct, and that on the back of the vertebral bodies, there is a duct that ends in the thoracic cavity just behind the implant, making some extraordinary details of this specimen. These 4 images, are tomographic sections where we can highlight the presence of the eggs, the 3 eggs. However, the most relevant thing about this image is that we can identify a 4th egg of 1 millimeter in diameter that is inside this oviduct, which we can follow its path to the abdominal cavity where it will grow and develop. Inside this egg, we find an embryo, which is perfectly divided into a head, its developing eye, upper limbs, and the rest of the body. This image is extraordinary because it shows the natural evolution and development of an embryo, which is practically impossible to replicate artificially if this were to be false. In the hands, the tridactyl relevance of these specimens allows us to show 4 phalanges in each finger, making them thin and very long, which can make a wrapping movement for support and not opposition. In these same structures, we can see the feet that are exactly the same as in the hand, tridactyls with 4 phalanges ending in the last phalanx in a claw position. Furthermore, in long bones, we can find this septum between the bones. This intraosseous septum allows the bones to have greater solidity and hardness without losing their lightness. They are very light, which favors their ability to move, their biomechanical capabilities.
Dureza y resistencia del hueso, pero que a su vez mantiene ligeros y livianos, incrementando su capacidad de movimiento y desplazamiento funcional.
Our second tridactyl is Victoria. It is the only one that is in the sitting position and without a head. The head was lost due to a tearing effect. Multiple samples were taken from this body, which were to determine carbon-14, which, according to the Institute of Physics of the Autonomous University of Mexico, has an average of between 700 to 1,700 years old. Likewise, DNA samples were taken. The DNA gave spectacular results with a 30% difference with known species and 70% of species completely out of the ordinary. This was compared to 1 million species without finding a direct correlation. Likewise, tissue samples were taken, which needed to be rehydrated in order to apply histopathological tests or analysis using a rehydration technique for these tissues known to the FBI. Our third tridactyl is Albert. The relevance of Albert is the long size of this neck. This size allows us to suspect that the head has an elongation and contraction movement with respect to the neck, as if it were a turtle. Our fourth tridactyl is Clara. Fluoroscopy studies were applied to this specimen that allows us to see in real time the movement of anatomical structures, such as in this image, where my hand moves over Clara's skeletal structure. In this image, we can see that the skeleton has a perfect fit in the joints. that there are no traces of assembly, and that there is no artifice that allows us to assume that it was artificially assembled. In this image, we can perfectly see the septum interosseous in the arm. This interosseous septum confirms that the bone is light but very rigid. We also have, as a tridactyl number 5, different loose hands of 45 centimeters in length as tridactyls. These hands are very interesting because we can find up to 6 phalanges in the fingers, making them extremely long. Likewise, we can find implants that have the same characteristics and elements as those previously mentioned. These hands could correspond to a larger specimen of more than 2.5 meters in height. Our 6th tridactyl is named Maria. This specimen has a bone structure very similar to that of a human. However, the bones are more robust, bringing it closer to the skeletal structure of a primate. In the skull, this skull is elongated and has a 30% greater capacity to contain neurological or brain material. The relevant thing about this specimen is that it is also tridactyl. In its hands, we can see up to 5 phalanges, and within these phalanges there may be a metatarsus or a metacarpus, which already allows a wrist joint that is much more similar to that of a human being. This tridactyl specimen has a claw ending on its last phalanx, where we were able to identify the presence of fingerprints in a linear manner. These linear fingerprints are unique in nature, since in primates or mammals, they are generally wavy and non-linear. Our 7th tridactyl is called Santiago. Santiago is a specimen smaller than Maria, but with very similar characteristics, also a tridactyl in which there are 3 phalanges on each finger. In the skull, we can see that it does not have bone consolidation and that it also has the presence of mixed dentition, that is, temporary teeth and permanent teeth that have not yet emerged. Our tridactyl number 8 was named Sebastian, in which you can see a plate on the back of the neck. This tridactyl is intermediate in size between Maria and Santiago. Its anatomical structure is very similar to that of a human, and the most relevant thing about this tomography is that organs can be seen inside. Its tridactylity can also be seen as having 4 phalanges in its hand. Inside the skull, this skull is perfectly ossified, and the content of neuronal material can still be seen, with the mixed dentition still pending, which makes it look like a young individual. In addition to this, we have loose pieces, hands and skulls, which allows us to suspect the existence of 3 to 4 species. Of these skulls, there are some that have metal implants, which have decorations or graphics. All of these bodies were requested from the government of Peru for recognition and study. Within the documents that were sent to the government of Peru, several responses were obtained. This document is, for me, the most valuable response because it determines that the public ministry in its molecular biology and genetics unit establishes that the nucleotide sequences of the 3 specimens recognize that the DNA samples that were taken are organic and biological. Second, it recognizes that it cannot make a statement on the matter since this DNA is non-human or different from human. Therefore, it also suggests that we go with professionals who know and can study other types of living organisms, thus recognizing that these bodies are organic matter and biological that need further study and that are not artifacts or crafts made by man. In conclusion, I want to confirm that, first, these bodies are 100% real, organic, functional, biological, and have an entire skeletal structure with no data of alteration or modification. Second, that these bodies may be a new species and that this species needs to be included in the phylogenetic line of Darwin's taxonomic tree.
de las cuales se tendría que estudiar y determinar su filogenia de ascendencia o de descendencia. Tercero y por
Third, if in Darwin's phylogenetic line we do not find, then we are facing the possibility of describing and accepting the presence of a species that is not recognized by science or what is known yet.
en la ciencia en la actualidad.
Let's fight for their conservation that it allows us to achieve greater knowledge of these bodies. These tridactyl bodies need science to be able to study them in greater depth.
Muchísimas
Thanks a
gracias
lot.
y quedo a sus órdenes.
Okay. Now, I think we can go to Peru, to the University of Ica. The University of Ica is the most important in the area where these bodies were found. That's why they are there. They have been there since 2019. They've been investigating these bodies for 4 years. Can you think, just for a second, that 11 scientists would sign a letter saying that these bodies are real after 4 years of investigations if they were not? Okay, let's go to Fernando Correa, a reporter who has been participating in this investigation from the very beginning with me. We went together to Peru in 2017. Okay, Fernando, go ahead.
Gracias, Jaime. ¿Qué tal, amigos? Soy Fernando Correa Domínguez. Me encuentro transmitiendo en vivo y en directo desde la Universidad San Luis Gonzaga en la ciudad de Ica, en el Perú, en donde llegaron estos cuerpos y han sido investigados desde agosto de 2019. Directamente vamos con el doctor Roger Zúñiga, que ha sido el investigador principal, coordinador de investigadores, y vamos a hablar en esta ocasión del cuerpo tridáctilo de María, es Tercer. Adelante, doctor Zúñiga, muchas gracias. ¿Ante qué estamos? Estamos frente
We are in front of a dried body called Maria. This body was delivered on August 1st, 2019. Since that date, we started with investigations, and we found the surprise that it is a body that has no comparison with Homo sapiens and even less with Sapiens sapiens. They are completely different, exceptional bodies. There is no point of comparison with any species that lives on Earth. Definitely, the fact that they are tridactyl, or they have 3 fingers on their hands and toes, is one of the most notable characteristics, as well as their elongated head. What else do we see, doctor? Let's start with the very short description of the body. Basically, the head and the limbs, both lower and upper. Here we have the head. As you can observe, it is a different head than that of the human being. It is a completely elongated head with the temples flattened and pulled towards the back. It is not like the human. Then we have that the skin of the head is keratomized, that is, as if it had scales. And this more or less resembles with dinosaurs or reptiles. Then we have the head and see that it has no hair. She is less of hair. It has never had hair.
I didn't know that.
There are no
Never had hair.
indications of it.
Listen,
para que pudiera seguramente cuando estaba vivo. Luego tenemos acá
Then we have here the eye basins, hardly large, and not at all like their sister. And here we have remains of the eye globe, which is bulged. She had her eyes a little outstanding, which did not look at all like his sister. We have a small face, and the nosophals also, small, with the small holes.
Virachoca, Y era Quetzalcóatl. Estos eran.
Mandibular, tanto superior como inferior,
La serpiente emplumada, sin piel, sin pelo, sin orejas. Cara de serpiente.
Then we have, on the upper limbs, we have 3 fingers. And these fingers are completely original, authentic. They have never been manipulated because there is not even a mark of sutures, glues, etc. Here we have the upper limbs with 4 phalanges. Here is each finger. Here in the arm, there is a separation between the ulna and the radius, which is not human. It is completely different. Dr. Hernandez will explain that. Then we have the lower limbs. As you will see, also natural. They have not been forged at any time. This one is about to fall off. It's even hanging from a tendon. And then, if you see, for example, the end of the phalange, it is bent more or less at 90 degrees. You can watch. What does this make us think? That this being was not stepping with, it was not touching the sole of his foot towards the ground, but the foot was a little curved, surely by the burning desert of Nasca. Then the fingerprints, which we can't show, at the end we will show the graphics. The graphics, yes, which is completely different from the human. That is, the fingerprints are horizontal. They are not like ours, which are rounded or spiral-shaped. If you start with these hands and those you bring here, please, can you explain to us, and I must ask you again, through the studies that you have conducted since 2019 on this Tridactyl being, have you found indications that it was manipulated? We have found multiple indications that they are like a human, but they have other differential features. Wherever you see, there are multiple features different from the human in the head, the hands. In addition to tridactylity, in the interiors, there is an abnormal separation between radius and ulna. The feet, in addition to the theory that the feet have an even calcareal differentiation, which makes it very particular in the vertebral column, there are more differences. Please explain to us, let's see if you can take this by the detail. One of the most common hypotheses of those who do not support these investigations is that someone manipulated the mummies and removed them, and that they exchanged the hand with the foot to simulate that they are tridactyls. I am going to demonstrate with this human foot, which we have removed the toes, the first toe from the root, the metacarpal. As you can observe, steps are noticed that evidence that there has been a manipulation here. When an X-ray of the feet or hands is taken, these evidences are noted. Naturally, there are things that an ordinary person could not notice, but a radiologist can realize that this is completely different. This also happens with the hand. We can see the first and the fifth finger, and we see the differences. Here we see that there is a manipulation with the extraction of the fingers in consideration. We can see that there are modifications. We are going to call Dr. Irving Zúñiga so that he will be the one to give us a summary of the DNA results of this tridactyl specimen. What is it about, doctor? We can see there in the results, they show that you have a combination of 4 genomes. A carbon-14 test was done that dates 1,700 years ago. The DNA test mentions that it has 4 different genomes. 30% human DNA combined with chimpanzee genome and bonobo monkeys, and the remaining 70% of an unknown DNA. This is not possible, and that it is naturally. Then from here, our invocation as the members of the research team of these beings, the invitation to people scientists or institutions who want to join to be able to do another DNA study and replicate the one that has already been done. This way, we would be contributing a lot to science and research. Thank you so much, Dr. Irving. To conclude, let's quickly go through the images of the fingerprints and have the Dr. Roger Zúñiga come, for which we are going to thank him. We are about to send this signal to the city of Lima, the capital of Peru, but also a very notable difference, Doctor. The fingerprints, let's see them please, because they are completely different. Describe them briefly. Look, there we visibly have the lines are horizontal. They are not a spiral like human beings have. There you can see much clearer the fingerprints. We clearly observe that there is no similarity to humans. We wanted to inform you since time is so little. So in some other time we'll make it wider. There we have the fingerprints, for instance in gorillas, as well as in koalas and men. They are alike. They are in a spiral, but Maria and the other bodies have absolutely no resemble with these animals, with these anthropoids, and also with Homo sapiens. Thank you very much, Dr. Roger Zúñiga. Unprecedented, you already seen it. We are going to deliver this signal so that the press conference continues. This is Fernando Correa Domingos, and let's continue now with Joyce Mantilla, who is in Lima, Peru. Thank you, stay. There's still more to come.
Let's go now to Lima in Peru, where we will hear Dr. Juan José Rodríguez Lazo.
Vamos a verificar si está el enlace ya.
This man,
Estamos
no,
aquí. De un momento a otro vamos con nuestro compañero de investigación, el periodista Joyce Mantilla.
okay. Fernando,
Los doctores, los catedráticos de la Universidad San Luis Gonzaga, aquí en Ica.
Fernando, vamos a cortar la transmisión, por favor. Let's cut the streaming from the Ica University. Now we are going to...
Hello there. We are broadcasting live from the city of Lima in a radiological center that has thought to provide us their facilities to be able to do the tomographs and for the world to see inside what these extraordinary tridactyl beings are like. So we're with two professionals, a forensic and a surgeon, so they can tell us exactly their diagnosis. We already have the tomographic images that they just revealed to us. Let's go to the other side. We are in the company of forensic physician David Ruiz and Dr. Ricardo Anicama. Both are experts, one in forensic medicine, and Dr. Ricardo Anicama, who is to my left, is one of the most important doctors specialized in head and neck surgeries. Let's step inside briefly since the room's conditions area are a bit narrow. Good afternoon.
Como quieran. Ellos tienen el inglés en la aplicación.
Look here, what we can see, what calls our attention in this tomography is the indication of the external edge, which is very superior to the internal edge, to the orbit. That's right, an obliquity of approximately 45 degrees, and that is reflected in both orbits. The nose area also shows small nose passages. When we see the bone structure, if you can place it for me so I can observe, we see that it has the entire constitution of a skull, very like a human skull. The temporomandibular joint, but catches our attention a metallic-looking plate that is in the neck area. Let's zoom a little towards the neck, because it is an implant that looks like a band-aid. It's like very thin and wraps half of the neck. This looks a lot like some implants we have found as well defined by Dr. Jose Salce, implants on the skin that we have found in other specimens like Albert, whose implant generated bone growth around, something that was determined by the radiologist in Cusco. What is extraordinary about Sebastián is that he also has two implants at level of the clavicles. We are going to make a contrast so that you can see, there it is perfectly. When we do this reconstruction, it will give impact to the metal, and we can observe two other metal structures in addition to the one in the front region of the neck, and which is more or less at the level of both clavicles. Yes, that's definitely something different. It's not common. What can be highlighted in this tomography, both at level of the orbits and the presence of these metals in the neck. And I can tell you that there is not a single evidence of manipulation that can give us signs that this body has been manipulated. That is, they are 100% authentic. There is no evidence of tampering for this era, so we have not manipulated it. And that when one evaluates tridactyly, there is no stump that has been removed, a bone. The difference between the two bodies, Santiago, there is a difference, let's call it ages. They are almost the same, but in a different state of growth. One is 3 to 5 years old and the other about 7 to 9, more or less. Calculating from the human perspective, not their perspective, because obviously we make our own human paradigm. But this tridactyl is authentic and has no signs of having been cut. That is, if you see in this 3D reconstruction, which is by images, with technology, there are no signs that there was a step that was missing, and all the articulation is coherent. It is authentic. There is no way it was manufactured. That is, it has authenticity, correlation, interosseal, and also there is no evidence of manipulation. Here we have the bodies, here is Santiago, here is Sebastián, and here we have the opinion of Dr. Anekama. For example, this head that we have seen, that would look human, but also, do you notice any other characteristics? According to the tomography, with the bodies present, we see that these skulls are a little more elongated than those normally seen in the tomography.
Vamos a desplazar un poquito la camilla para que podamos acceder hacia allá para...
I would like you, colleague Ricardo, for you to watch this segment. At this moment I didn't put on the glasses, but I have seen them with a magnifying glass. Here you can see the fingerprints, and they are transversal, just like the Mami Maria. Fingerprints don't look like human fingerprints. They can be seen clearly in the photos. They are transverse, parallel, and longitudinal fingerprints of the finger. It is a unique thing. What catches my attention the most is the length of the fingers, which is definitely different from what humans can present. Could you say, doctor, these feet are very strange, not only because they have 3 toes, but because almost half of them are soles and the other half are fingers, right? Practically 50-50. That's right, the proportion is different exactly. And as far as I am concerned, in the part of the head and neck, we see the ubiquity of the eyes, which is extremely different, more or less 45 degrees of implantation in relation to the implantation of the external canthus with the external canthus, extremely oblique. And one nostril is very small, a little wide even, similar to primates, you could say. If we have found DNA from 2 apes incorporated into Maria's DNA, why couldn't it have a similar proportion, right, doctor? Simply put, when the paleogenetic course is carried out, these beings will also surprise us. I believe that with this, we cover our part here in Lima. It has been quite a technical and professional deployment, and the truth is that we are very satisfied from here to have been able to contribute this. We invite the scientists of the world, the professors, the professionals from different universities to take a little more interest to know this. Don't pay attention, unfortunately, to my colleagues in the press who are following the script of the Ministry of Culture. I don't know what dolls those from the Ministry of Culture can invent now to try to compare them with these extraordinary beings. This is a unique finding in history, and it shows us that we have had coexistence with other species that do not correspond to human evolution. Other species that are going to make us change our paradigm, and please, simply look for the information and you will find it. Thank you very much from here. I don't know if you have any questions. Let's return the transmission to the city of Los Angeles in California. Joyce Mantilla was with you from Lima, Peru.
I insisted so much in that. I insisted to have 2 channels. Okay, muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. I think we go to the conclusions to give way to the questions and answers. Thank you very much then, Joyce Mantilla. Thank you very much to everyone who participated from Ica, from Lima. There are a large number of people who have been involved in this extraordinary discovery. More than 50 scientists have had access to the bodies. No one who has investigated them,
not one that has investigated these bodies, has thought that these bodies are not real. Not one. 50 scientists so far. And I believe it's enough proof that this is a real finding, and this finding has to be known by the world. Okay? You want to do your conclusions, please?
Actually, Adam, did you want to come up first, and then we'll conclude things? So, second last person speaking today is Adam Curry. Adam Curry is very well known in the scientific community and a real pioneer when it comes to researching and investigating new technology. So, over to you, Adam. Woo!
Good afternoon. I'll keep it brief, but I wanted to start with a few quotes. And these are quotes about breakthrough scientific discoveries from authorities in the past. Quote, Louis Pasteur's theory of germs is ridiculous fiction, said Pierre Pachin, physiology professor in 1872. The abdomen, the chest, and the brain will be forever shut from the intrusion of the wise and humane surgeon, said Sir John Ericsson, the chief British surgeon, 1873. Heavier than air flying machines are impossible, said Lord Kelvin, who was the president of the Royal Society in 1895, just a few short years before the Wright brothers actually took flight. Computers in the future may weigh no more than 1.5 tons, said Popular Mechanics in 1949. I could keep going, but the point is that when it comes to breakthrough scientific discovery, sometimes the officials get it right, but sometimes the officials get it very wrong. I had the opportunity to participate in some of the activities in Mexico and Peru as an independent observer. And when I became satisfied of the seriousness and scientific credentials of the investigators involved, and that the specimens were indeed authentic anomalies, I realized that we might be dealing with something similar. This is a breakthrough scientific discovery in its early stage that is meeting some resistance. I offered to contact some of my colleagues at universities and institutes in the United States, asking them if they would be interested in performing third-party forensic analysis on the specimens, and I found that while all of them had heard about the story, and indeed many were quite excited about it, they were dissuaded from continuing due to essentially false reporting. So what we have is a communication problem. Incidentally, all of them are quite interested in providing some third-party analysis now that they realize that there's more to the story. And after hearing a little bit about some of the preliminary forensic results on the new specimens that you heard about this morning, I want to also make a call to any other qualified laboratory or university in the United States or elsewhere who is interested, for the benefit of science, in providing third-party analysis, particularly in ancient DNA, that can corroborate some of these preliminary findings. The teams in Peru and Mexico have been forthcoming from the beginning, that they are transparent about sharing and collaborating, and I would love to see more sharing and more collaborating happening surrounding these discoveries. One more quote. Gandhi said that first they ignore you, then they ridicule you, then they fight you, and then you win. And it's unfortunately often as true for scientific discoveries as it is in the pursuit of peace. But my highest hope for the discoveries in Peru and for the teams involved is that we don't have to repeat that cycle. That human curiosity prevail, that professional courtesy prevail, and we can spend our time not fighting one another, but instead exploring what is perhaps one of the most interesting and socially significant discoveries of recent times. Thanks very much.
Thank you guys all so much for your attention and your patience today, and for taking the time to come here and listen to this information. When we actually set out to make this film, we were going to make a film about the alien mummies. We could not wait to go to Mexico to see these bodies. We never really took in the fact that they could even be real. But when we were confronted with these bodies, and I say confronted because when you see something that you've never seen before, it can be quite shocking. When we saw these bodies, initially it was just fascination to be able to be so close to something that pretty much nobody on Earth has ever seen before. And to be able to go close up to them and scrutinize their nostrils and their eyes and their ears and turn their bodies over and look at the structure of their bones. Every second that we spent with these beings, we started to feel something very strange, something that we did not anticipate feeling at all, and that was emotion. We started to feel as though there was a story to be told here, that these little beings were once alive and had passed on. And during their brief time on this planet, they had lived, they had breathed, they had moved, they had formed relationships with each other. We realized that reporters, politicians, naysayers around the world were trying to say that these weren't real. But here they were. Now imagine if that was you. Imagine if somebody tried to deny your existence. You know, many of the conversations we've had, we've actually likened to people that have suffered abuse before. Imagine having suffered abuse and going to tell people about it and being told that, no, you weren't abused. That's not real. That's the energy that we've been feeling with these beings. They are no longer with us. They have passed away, but somebody has to have a voice for them. And that's all we're trying to do right now. So we're here to say that this is not a hoax. This is real. We don't know what they are. We don't know where they're from. We don't know who or what created them, but they are real. There are so many of them now. It's undeniable. And one of the greatest things for us, the greatest gift, I guess, that we got to receive when we went to Peru was that we got to meet these doctors and these scientists that are so passionate about proving the authenticity of these characters. These people don't need fame. They don't need fortune. They don't need to lose their jobs and their careers. Jaime is an iconic legend whose name has been completely defamed in the media. But we're here to tell you that everything that you've heard about these beings so far in the media is not true. So all that we ask is that you keep an open mind. That instead of listening to gossip and hearsay, you listen to the science. You listen to your scientists and you listen to your doctors. And if anybody here has any contacts in the scientific world here in America, we implore you to share this live stream with them and to ask them to come forward. Jaime and his team are able to give actual specimens of these beings to anybody in the scientific community that is bold enough to go against what society has been saying and actually do the work and do the research to figure out what these bodies are and where they came from. But I want to thank all of you once again for being here today and having that open mind and having that excitement about the fact that we've discovered something. We don't know what it is, but it's really freaking cool. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Michael, Mazzola, and Serena. Thanks to them, this really happened. Without them, probably this could have not happened. I want to tell you now what is next. We're going to have a press conference in Peru, the 4th of April. Very reputable scientists from America, very reputable, I mean, top scientists from America are going to be there, are going to study the bodies from one-to-one, face-to-face, and they probably, I hope, will give their results in this live stream if you want to follow the 4th of April, because this is not going to finish here. We will continue fighting and presenting this to the world. I hope the media, you are welcome to come to Lima the 4th of April at the Sheraton Hotel, 10 a.m. in the morning. Probably you will be able to witness if the Peruvian governments allow us to have the bodies there. If they don't confiscate them, we will present them to anyone who wants to see them, especially the media from the US, from around the world. This is huge. This is big. As a journalist, I tell you, this is the biggest story that I have found in 50 years. 50 years. I am an honest, investigative journalist. I became head of 60 Minutes, anchor of 60 Minutes in Mexico. I work very close to Mike Wallace and the people there, okay? I have a program for the last 25 years in the Mexican TV. It's 25 years old, this program. I also have a newscast from Monday to Friday. I am a journalist. I want to tell you this. I am not an ufologist. I am not an enthusiastic of UFOs. Stop saying that about me. I am a journalist, pure journalist. I've been recognized in the Capitol Hill. I've been recognized in the UN. I have won 3 times the National Award on Journalism of Mexico. And I have been recognized by the journalists in Spain, by the UN, as I said, and many others, because I am a journalist. But when they want to reduce this finding, they say, oh, it's a UFO enthusiast. The controversial Jaime Maussan. Why am I controversial? Because I say the truth? Is the truth controversial? Then I am controversial. Otherwise, I am honest, I am ethical, I have never been corrupt. I can be wrong, I accept that, but I never lie. And that's very important for me to say it, because I am tired of being called all that adjectives. It's not fair for a journalist. And I want to thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you for coming here. I hope all the people, all the media that didn't come, but follow this through the internet, realize how much you lost not being here. Because this is important. It's not about us. It's about the people. It's about the reality and the future and the past. Just consider for a second that this is real. Just consider for a second these are realities. Everything would change. And that's what the anthropologists and archaeologists of Peru doesn't want that to happen. And it's time to know the truth. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed here. I hope you felt that you are now part of history, and I hope you will continue reporting this because it's very important. Thank you. I think that, do you want to say something?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you very much, everyone, for coming out. It means a great deal to all of us.
Sí.
Harari.
Empezamos en Telemundo tú y yo, ¿te acuerdas?
Hace muchos años.
Muchísimo. Ok, un segundito, por favor. Ahí estás muy bien. Un segundo. Ok, básicamente me vas a decir, vamos a primero en inglés, ¿ok?
Sí.
Me ves a mí, yo lo agarro. No te preocupes, yo lo agarro. Name and title, please, sir. Name and title.
I'm Jaime Maussan. I'm an investigative reporter.
Can you spell for me your last name?
Maussan.
Okay. Can you tell us why we are here? What you presenting?
We are presenting probably the most important finding ever in history. We are presenting 2 new bodies from the diatomea mines of Peru, something that doesn't look human and doesn't look like anything we know, and I think it's very important. That's why we're here.